touch on the colors? Honors now for General Joseph Lingell. Please take your seats. Excuse me, please remain standing. The 215th Army Band will now do the national anthem. standing and invocation by Father Robert Casey.
Let us pray. God, our Father, we ask your blessing upon us today as we remember and honor our servicemen that died in Vietnam. We honor and remember all those men and women who have lost their lives safeguarding our freedoms and assuring peace throughout the world. As we honor these brave soldiers today who gave their life for our country and this community, we pledge never to forget, and we promise to do all in our power to promote peace throughout the world. We are mindful today, Lord, of all those men and women serving here in our country and around the world in harm's way. We ask you, Lord, to watch over them, protect them, and bring them safely home. As we gather today, let our prayer be one of peace for our world, our country, our community, and our homes, and above all, for peace in our hearts. We ask this in God's name. Amen.
Thank you, Father Casey. Please be seated. General Lingell, Congressman Lynch, Governor Baker, Mayor Walsh, Councilor Flaherty and Flynn, Senator Collins, fellow veterans, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great honor to be here this morning to celebrate the 37th anniversary of the South Boston Vietnam Memorial. And it has been my great honor every year since we first stood here on this spot on September 13th, 1981, and dedicated this beautiful memorial to our brothers from South Boston who gave the ultimate sacrifice to their country in Vietnam. And I will tell you that I never tire of it, and I never will. How could I ever tire of a chance to honor those men who lost their lives in Vietnam when I and all these men around the fence, who were the lucky ones, took them home and built a life. Let's face it, those of us who served in Vietnam aren't young anymore, but we know that every year is a gift that not everyone enjoyed. And that is why we worked so hard 37 years ago to raise the funds to erect this memorial, and why we have come back every year to rededicate it. Those of us who are veterans know that it is our duty to continue to tell the story of the men who fought in Vietnam in a 10-year war that cost 58,220 lives, and each one has a story. We remember Joe Thomas, who arrived in Vietnam on April 26, 1968, and died just 62 days later, on July 7th. And we remember Eddie Milan, who arrived in Vietnam on January 12, 1968, and died just 51 days later, on March 4th. And we remember Jimmy Stewart. Jimmy arrived in Vietnam on February 1st, 1968, and died 14 days later on February 15th. Collectively, Joe, Eddie, and Jimmy had just 127 days of service on the ground in Vietnam. 127 days. But this memorial, built with this indestructible marble and etched with their names, and the names of their 22 friends from South Boston, this memorial has already stood for more than 13,000 days. And I know that this community will maintain it for 13,000 more. Because it's our duty to remember. It's our duty to tell the story of these brave men. As our fellow Vietnam veteran John McCain once said, nothing in life is more liberating than to fight for a cause larger than self, something that encompasses you, but is not defined by your existence alone. Senator John McCain passed late last month was something that all of us who served in Vietnam feel deeply. John's service to his country was remarkable, and his bravery is well known. He was proud of his service, and he was proud of his country. As President George W. Bush said in his eulogy to Senator McCain, "We are better for his presence among us. The world is smaller for his departure, and we will remember him as he was, unwavering, undimmed, and unequaled." And what was remarkable about Senator McCain, who I had the pleasure of meeting twice, is that he always was quick to recognize a fellow veteran, to give him a smile and a handshake, and thank them for their service, with a look in his eye that conveyed the knowledge that he knew, he understood. Ceremonies like this must continue to be part of the fabric of this country. Our children and our grandchildren need to see what it means to honor the dead, to honor our heroes. It makes up the very foundation of our country. And I am proud and so grateful to see all of you for taking the time out this morning to be here. Your presence brings honor to these men and to all who have served in uniform throughout the world. On behalf of myself, Jerry Turner, Georgie Egan, Harry Carroll, Tommy Irwin, thank you all for being here today. And especially want to thank my fellow Vietnam veterans for once again being here 37 years. The print gets small, glasses have to come out. General Joseph L. Lingell serves as the 28th Chief of the National Guard Bureau and as a member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. In this capacity, he serves as a military advisor to the President, Secretary of Defense, National Security Council, and is the Department of Defense official channel of communication to the governors and State Adjutant General on all matters pertaining to the National Guard. He is responsible for ensuring that more than 453,000 Army and Air National Guard personnel are accessible, capable, and ready to protect the homeland and to provide combat-ready resources to the Army and the Air Force. General Lingell was commissioned in 1981 through the Reserve Officer Training Corps program at the University of North Texas. He served in various operational staff assignments, primarily as an F-16 pilot and a weapons officer. His experience in the F-16 includes tours in Air Combat Command, Pacific Air Force, United States Air Force in Europe, and the Texas National Guard. He has commanded a fighter squadron, operations group, air expeditionary groups, and the Air National Guard readiness. General Lingell is a command pilot with more than 3,000 flying hours, primarily in the F-16. General has an extraordinary list of major awards and decorations. I won't go through them all, but I would like to just acknowledge a few. Defense Distinguished Service Medal, Defense Superior Service Medal, Legion of Merit with 2 oak leaf clusters, Bronze Star Medal, Combat Readiness Medal with 3 oak leaf clusters, Air Force Expeditionary Medal, Afghanistan Campaign Medal, Global War and Terrorism Medal. I had the pleasure of meeting General Lingell in May at the Constitution when the USS Constitution paid tribute to the 50th anniversary of the ending of the Vietnam War. And I was impressed not because of the General's presence, but the way he talked with so much reverence and so much respect for Vietnam veterans. And it was at that time that I learned that General Lingell's dad, a fighter pilot also in the Air Force, was shot down in Vietnam and was a prisoner of war for over 6 years. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor, it's my pleasure now to introduce our guest of honor today, General Joseph Lingell.
Well, thank you, Tommy. It is indeed an honor for me to be here today. That was quite the honors plate. I thought General Junford just got the big cannons and the smoke and the fires. Hope we didn't set anybody off here while we were doing that. So I am honored to be here. I feel as touched and connected to this war as many of my counterparts who were at the time too young to serve in it. And I'm very thankful that Tommy asked me to be here today and speak at this rededication of this great memorial. So thank you, Governor Baker, Mayor Walsh, Congressman Lynch. My thanks to Ambassador Flynn, who I also met today, General McGinn here representing the Massachusetts National Guard, Medal of Honor winner Captain Tom Kelly, sir, great to see you as well, and all the other distinguished guests here. But most of all, it's important for me to be here near home, and I assume, like most other Red Sox fans, 51 games ahead of 500, 7.5 games in front of the Yankees. We're on a 2-game skid. We're all scared to death, and we're watching them closely. So yes, I am Joe Langell. I'm honored to be here for many reasons. It's both personal and patriotic. I was born in Lynn and raised right up the road in West Peabody, Mass. It was a long time ago, but that place and these people and all the history here made me who I am today. It's a long time ago. They used to call me Joey. Not many people call me Joey anymore. Only my Aunt Cindy and some of the family still around. But I am the son of retired Lieutenant Colonel Laurie Langell, who began his career in the Mass Guard when the F-86 was flying out of Logan. He transferred to the Air Force active duty, and like the men listed on this monument behind me, he volunteered to go to war in June of 1967. He dropped us off, the family, with the rest of the family in Peabody, because he wanted us to have a support network, and he wanted us to be able to have family and friends for the 1 year while he was gone. Little did we know he was going to be gone for almost 6 years. My mother's still furious about that, by the way. He was flying a reconnaissance version of the F-4, and on August 9, 1967, he was shot down. Both him and his backseater survived. It would be many months before they would see each other again. But he and Captain Glenn Myers were captured and taken prisoner, where they stayed for over 2,044 days as guests of the Vietnamese, including in many prison camps, including the Hanoi Hilton. I feel fortunate that I met many great men who were in prison with him after they returned from captivity, including the great John McCain, who Tommy mentioned, and we all recently mourned his death. He came home on March 14, 1973 during Operation Homecoming, and that was a long time. It was 5.5 years that he was gone. It seemed like a long time, and it's a very happy story for my family, one that we didn't know, really nothing short of a miracle, that we got him back. He came back to us alive, and we never gave up hope. I remember the day the blue car drove up in front of the house. I was a young boy. I was 7 years old. I was the oldest of 4 kids in my family. And men dressed like me in a wheel cap and a chaplain walked up to the front door, and I remember the look on my mother's face like it was yesterday. She put her hands on her face and she looked out the window in the front yard up in West Peabody, Mass, and she said, "Oh my God, no." Because immediately she thought the worst. She thought my father had perished. But they pulled us together and they told us that our dad was missing in action, that his plane had been shot down, that there had been no contact with him. And it was bad news, but it could have been worse. After 2.5 years, we found out that he was indeed held as a prisoner of war in Vietnam, and the next 3 years were hard, particularly for my mother, who had 4 small kids. But we got through it. We got through it because we had each other. We had a close family network, and because of the support of our communities and our families and our friends. They helped us endure the difficult times and were with us as we tried to live our normal lives and wait for the war to end. We shared hope and fear and the common bond that only a person in that circumstances could share. We all know war is an awful thing, and when bad news comes, news that brings unimaginable pain, the only support people had was their faith in God, their love of family, the support of friends and their communities. I think often of the pain endured by the mothers and the families and the sons and the siblings of the family members listed on this wall, when their lives were changed forever and immeasurably the day that car pulled up in front of their family home. A family member gone, never to return, and our country is forever in their debt. That level of support that we received, as many of you know, Back then, it was nothing like it is today. That war reshaped how we care for service members, Gold Star families, wounded warriors, and combat veterans. Thankfully, veterans at war today and those in service today have a much better care system inside the military, inside our nation, than these Vietnam veterans and those men standing here in front of me today, or their families. And while I believe that time does heal most wounds, it can't completely heal this one. The pain may subside, but the thoughts of what might have been by these families on this wall behind me, the pain lingers. The Vietnam veterans deserve more than we gave them. The families of these men inscribed on this monument deserve more than we gave them 50 years ago. And that's why this is personal for me and personal for our veterans. I've heard the stories of Vietnam vets shaking the hands of our deploying service members, and they look them dead in the eye and say, "We will never let happen to you what happened to us." Vietnam and today's conflicts are successive chapters in a long book of patriotic service. And our great American warriors committed to something bigger than ourselves now get much, much greater respect and recognition than they once did. Here in Southie and across the nation, there were some who remembered. The communities who knew the fallen, who loved the fallen, who were closest to them would not forget them. They were determined to honor the memories of their friends lost in that war. And it's their dedication that brings us here today. We owe them a huge debt of gratitude. This is a personal and patriotic honor for me to be here today. We honor these great men as we rededicate such an important, inspiring monument. Looking at the etched names is both powerful and emotional. They gave their entire futures for this country. There is nothing more humbling than to stand here with you and honor the sacrifices made by these men, by their families, and by this community. Southie is a tough neighborhood where great warriors are made. It's a tough, competitive place. And frankly, I've always heard that people in Southie just like to fight. It's a valuable commodity for our warriors, and it has grown many great warriors. The passion it breeds, it also breeds a profound love for each other, for the community, and for the country. It forges tight-knit bonds between each other, between people, what Tommy Lyons calls between regular street corner guys. These friends grew up together. They played sports together. They hung out in this very park. They went to war together. It's a closeness shared by kids of that generation long ago, before they had iPhones and video games. It's nurtured by playing outside after school together until multiple escalating threats from mom made you come in and wash up and eat. Then you went back outside and you played again until it was dark. These are tough kids and close friends, and many of them turned to the military because they didn't want to wait to get drafted. They wanted to serve, they wanted to go on their own terms, and they wanted to go on the buddy system. And I'm struck by the 6 friends from Southie: Tommy Lyons, Paul Evans, Paul Lombard, John Cole, Joe Desmond, Don Turner, all enlisted after high school. And in 1968, all 6 went to Vietnam. Only 3 came home. Private First Class Joe Desmond and Private First Class John Cole perished within a day of each other. For those that made it home, most returned to civilian life, as Tommy put it. They just wanted to put away their sea bags and get on with our lives. For a long time, people don't talk about it. They tried to forget about it. You can see how that could happen, because war is an awful thing. 10 years later, the surviving friends reminisced about their service. With grateful friends and family, they attended a memorial mass just like we just did across the street at St. Bridget's. Time always seems to give birth to new perspective, and this group began to think differently about their uniform and their legacy of their sacrifice. It must be honored, it must be remembered. They thought about Donnie Turner's son, born the day after he died, shortly after he died, and he was growing up without his dad. They talked about guys like Eddie Milan, who served in the Navy. He came back, couldn't find work, so he joined the Air Force and he returned to Vietnam, only to be killed. They remember the fallen. When the conversation ended, they were shocked to learn there were 25 from Southie had lost its sons. The thought of building a Vietnam memorial was not a popular idea. It was such an unpopular war. I remember that was about the time 37 years ago when I joined the military. And it was a different time. People couldn't wear uniforms about town going to and from work. It just wasn't popular to serve. However, this dedicated group of friends were committed and filled with an overwhelming desire to honor their comrades, and on September 13, this memorial was unveiled. It was ahead of its time, dedicated a full year before the Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C., 37 years ago. The memorial demonstrates a lot of things. The love of this community for those they lost, the loyalty of those Vietnam veterans who would not forget them. And on the front there are 25 names, 15 Marines, 9 soldiers, and an airman who had also served as a sailor. There is an inscription which reads, as you read, "If you forget my death, then I died in vain. The people of South Boston will never forget." And the other side has an inscription in large letters which reads, "To all men and women who served during the Vietnam War, welcome home. It's a long overdue welcome home." It's a simple message for tremendous sacrifice. This memorial is a message for these men and all Vietnam veterans everywhere. As I said before, time and age give rise to new perspective. And we now pay proper respect to our heroes that served and who died defending our nation. You, the people of Southie, helped give birth to this new perspective because of your dedication to this memorial and your remembrance of it every year. The legacy and loyalty of the Vietnam veterans of South Boston inspires new generations of service to community and to state and to country. Sergeant John McNulty, Boston Police Department SWAT team leader and a member of my security detail last year, is a brother of another Massachusetts National Guard colonel in the 102nd Intel Wing. Tommy's own son, now a director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, also a former Air Force Special Tactics operator. And my boss, Joe Dunford, one of the greatest men I've ever met and had the pleasure of working for, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, has celebrated here, along with the Marine Corps Silent Drill Platoon. They have never forgotten, and they will never forget. Thank you for allowing me to share my story with you today. Let me close with this poem from Major General John Boring, U.S. Air Force retired. He too was a guest with the men in the Hanoi Hilton. He composed poems and he would tap them out on the walls as the prisoners of war would communicate themselves using a tap code. In his poem, "This I Believe," he writes, "Some are made for mountains, some prefer the plain, but each must have self-esteem to bring him home again. Values come from people, assessing their amounts. Those worthy of respect and pride all know the striving counts." I thank you, Tommy, and the people of Southie for your values, your self-esteem, and for your continued striving to never forget these great men. May we always remember these men and what they did for our nation. We thank them and honor them, and we thank their families for their sacrifice. May God bless you all, and may God bless the United States of America.
It's my pleasure now to introduce our Congressman. He's been with us as a state representative, as a senator, and has always come back with us as our Congressman. Ladies and gentlemen, Congressman Stephen Lynch.
Thank you, Tom. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Actually, it's afternoon right now, right? They told me to be quick that there's a Patriots game on at 1 o'clock. Let me first of all say, Reverend Clergy, Father Casey, thanks for your blessing. Governor Charlie Baker, Mayor Walsh, Senator Collins, Councilors Flaherty and Flynn, Clerk Mike Donovan, Ambassador Flynn, and Senate President Bill Bulger. And we have a new representative-elect, State Representative-elect David Beal is with us. Thank you. That's one more person for the people of South Boston to blame for something. You're most welcome. To all our veterans, Medal of Honor recipient Tom Kelly, to all our Gold Star families here today, and especially our guest of honor, General Joseph Lingell. General, with that great welcome from the howitzer and the band, you know you're very, very welcome here, but not so much by the people who sleep late. Great to see Governor Baker here. Do you live here now, Governor Baker? I see this guy like every single day now. I think he and Lauren moved in quietly. It's good to have you here, and thanks for all your work on pedestrian safety, on the opioid issue, on all the things you work with us on, as well as Mayor Walsh. I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the passing of Senator John McCain. He was a true patriot, as Tom and General Lingell have mentioned. He served his country with distinction. He was a naval aviator, shot down in 1967 over Hanoi, badly injured. He endured 5.5 years as a prisoner of war, and a lot of people forget that he refused early release because there were other prisoners of war that were with him that had been there for a longer stay, as they say. And just in case there remains any doubt about his status as an American hero, just for the record, he received the Silver Star, the Bronze Star, the Purple Heart with the Gold Star, which means he was injured before he received the injury for which he received the Purple Heart. I first got to know John McCain when we were working on with JPAC, the Joint POW-MIA Accounting Command. The responsibility of that agency is to return our sons and daughters who perish overseas in foreign wars back to their homes and families. Senator McCain was keenly interested in making sure that, especially in Vietnam, that the 900 or so remaining service members who perished in Vietnam were returned to their families. Shortly after that, Senator McCain invited me to the Munich Security Conference, and he led that mission every year as the chairman of the Armed Services Committee in the Senate. There were 7 members of the United States Senate and me. And I first thought I was going to be carrying the bags for those guys, but Senator McCain was just absolutely terrific to me during that week in Munich. And I'll never forget, people who haven't seen what goes on at the Munich Security Conference is sort of like speed dating. And so we, as the United States delegation, sit in the hotel room, about 10 chairs in front of us. And on a rotating basis, every 45 minutes, a new country, a new delegation, sometimes with the head of state, for example, King Abdullah, but with all of the military leadership from each country, they will rotate. So they come in, we argue for 45 minutes, and then the bell rings, and that country stands up, they leave, and another country comes in. And that's the process for this Munich Security Conference. So when I was with Senator McCain, on one occasion, we had the Pakistani Security Service and their military, their defense ministers come in and sit down in front of us. And at one occasion, these 7 senators, including Senator McCain, one of the senators from Alabama got in a heated discussion with the defense minister from Pakistan. Now, the minister from Pakistan was talking Pashtun, and the gentleman from Alabama, I think, was speaking English. And Senator McCain got such a charge out of that. He was, trying not to laugh out loud, but he turned to me and he said, "Are you following this?" And I said, "Well, frankly, Senator, I think I understand the guy from Pakistan more than I understand the guy from Alabama." But he was a wonderful statesman, as well as everybody knows, a fearless and great American hero. And I do want to say that several weeks ago, when his funeral motorcade arrived from Andrews Air Force Base and was proceeding up to the National Cathedral, they made an unexpected stop and pulled over in front of the Vietnam Memorial. And Cindy McCain, his wife, got out, and they had a with General John Kelly and General Mattis. And they laid a wreath in front of the Vietnam Memorial, in front of the wall, and it said, "For all who served." That was his wishes. That was his wishes. So the country, but especially Vietnam veterans, lost a wonderful champion on their behalf. And again, like all who served, we owe Senator McCain a deep debt of gratitude. I want to thank Tom Lyons for doing this for 37 years. I want to thank your committee. I want to thank the men around the rail for not forgetting your friends, for being here every single year. That really is what brotherhood is about, what South Boston is about. It's a shining example of what is best about America. May God bless our veterans. God bless the families of the men on this wall and the men who we honor today. And may God bless these United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Lynch. It's my honor and pleasure now to introduce our mayor, Mayor Walsh, who we need to thank for the great memorials that we have here for Medal of Honor recipients from South Boston. He's been a friend. Mayor Walsh.
Thank you, Tom. And before I begin, I just want to say, after Steve Lynch spoke, I heard the governor say to Lauren, "I got to follow Steve Lynch in those stories." And then Tom Lyons heard that and said, "Well, we'll bring Marty Walsh." So I want to thank you, Tommy Lyons, for bringing me up to follow Steve Lynch. Let me just, first of all, thank you, Tommy. I don't think we can thank Tom Lyons enough for what he's done for our veterans in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in this country. And all of the men that stand with Tommy, not behind Tommy, but with Tommy, thank you too. And the women who helped Tommy never forget and always do a first-class job of fighting and remembering our veterans and our active service members. Thank you, Tommy Lyons. I want to thank Father Casey. Sorry I missed Matt's Father Casey. I was literally at City Hall trying to resolve something else, but I hope you say a prayer for me. General, you were outstanding. Thank you for your service to our country. To your family, thank your family for your service to our country. And thank you for being here in South Boston this morning. To Tom Kelly, Medal of Honor recipient, you're always here, Tommy. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your service to our country. I have a great picture. I had a great opportunity to meet another Medal of Honor recipient when there was some trainings going on in Boston. It was in Dorchester, and it was a late night, and I had a chance to take a picture between two Medal of Honor recipients. And when I talk to people all the time, I pull that picture out and say, these two men are heroes, and they're the people we should be emulating in our life. So thank you for your service as well. To all the elected officials, the governor, thank you, Lauren, thank you for being with us today. To Michael and Nick and Eddie and Michael Dunham and David, congratulations and welcome. Thank you as well. To Giselle Sterling, the Commissioner for Veterans Affairs in the City of Boston, who's done an incredible job. And last weekend had a group of folks going out and welcoming veterans home again quietly. thank you for that. Thank you for what you do for our veterans. To all the family and friends of the fallen soldiers from South Boston, thank you for your service, and know that we pray with you every day for your losses. To our veterans that are here, our Vietnam veterans, but every other veteran here today with us at this beautiful park, thank you as well for your service. To active service men and women here today, thank you for serving our country and helping us honor those who came before you. To the Parks Department and the neighbors who keep this Medal of Honor Park beautiful all year round. This looks like this today, but if you come here any day of the week, during any time of the year, maybe not after a blizzard, but you see this place beautiful. And thank you to all the people that make sure that this park is beautiful every single day. As often been said and can never be forgotten, 37 years ago this community did something remarkable. Southie came together, and the General talked about Southie, came together to make sure their fallen soldiers would be remembered with honor and dignity. They worked hard to create a beautiful permanent memorial that would forever tell the names on it stories. Just as moving as the moment itself, in fact, is the annual tradition that has continued on for 37 straight years. It's a testament to South Boston and the deep roots and the sense of tradition that this community is very proud of and is known for. It's a testament to the deep respect and the gratitude we all have for those who made the ultimate sacrifice. As Congressman Lynch said, and Tommy said, and other people have said, we're dedicating this year's service to the late Senator John McCain. He understood sacrifice in the way that so few do. But I do know his story resonates with so many of you today. Senator McCain once said, I fell in love with my country when I was a prisoner in someone else's. I loved it for its decency, for its faith, in its wisdom, justice, and goodness of all people. I loved it because it was just not a place, but an idea, a cause worth fighting for. When we think about Senator McCain's send-off, if you saw when his body left his home, and everyone's seen it at this point, you saw the sky. The sky was telling us a story. And Senator McCain planned his memorial services, not for him, but for this country, to tell a message of who we are and where we need to get back to. And as we remember the loss today, we take the words of Senator McCain to heart. We remember, and we should always remember, that we're bound by something greater than ourselves. Regardless of who we are or what positions we hold or how think we are great, it's bigger than ourselves. We remember that America is more than a place. America is an idea. It's a belief in the love and unity that binds communities like the one that we're in today in South Boston and the communities all across this country. The legacy of the names on the memorial, the monument behind me, their legacy lives on in the hearts and minds of those they loved, and their legacy remains in the hearts and minds of all those who visit this space. I want to thank all of you for being here today for this rededication. May God bless all of you, and may God bless the United States of America.
I know it doesn't need to be said, but the 37 years, this event didn't happen because of one person. You know, I am so proud of all these men standing at this fence today because they've been here for 37 years plus, and good leaders surround themselves with good people. I gotta tell you, these are the best. It's a pleasure now to introduce our governor, the only governor to ever attend this ceremony in 37 years. I love saying that because it just speaks to who Charlie Baker is. Ladies and gentlemen, my good friend, the governor, Charlie Baker.
morning, good afternoon, everybody. And a special welcome home to the men standing on the rail and to all of our men and women in uniform who are here today, and to our veterans. You know, as I thought about what I might say, and my wife's here, which means when I sit down, however long I talk, I'm going to say, how did I do? And she's going to say, you were too long. I will try to be brief. But as I thought about that, coming on the heels of the general's remarks and the congressmen's and the mayors, all of whom did justice to this ceremony and the people that it represents, I thought I might just tell a couple of quick stories, one of which has to do with, believe it or not, a rock concert I attended in 2009 in the summer with my wife and our kids and some of their friends. It's a band called Blink-182, which is not exactly a classic rock band of my generation. And in the midst of the show, one of the players in the band said to the crowd, "We want you guys to be quiet." Now the crowd assumed that meant they were supposed to get louder, and that's exactly what they did. And he said, "No, I mean it. I want you guys to shut up." So the place gets quiet, and he looks out into the crowd and he points at someone, a guy in a uniform, and he says, "Hey, I just want you to know how much we're rooting for you, for all your brothers and sisters, to be safe, to come home soon. God bless." And the whole place went completely crazy. Now I'm sure in that crowd and in that band, there are plenty of people who didn't support the war. But they had made the war about Washington. They weren't holding it against the men and women in uniform. And I thought a lot about that, especially because of the way the war and the warrior, with respect to Vietnam, is so hard to separate in the minds of a lot of people here in this country. And that led to tragedy of the way so many of our warriors were treated when they came home to Vietnam. Now, I happen to believe that the decision the folks here in this community made to create this memorial, which as far as I can tell was the first to honor those who served and sacrificed in Vietnam, was that proverbial pebble in the ocean. And it was from there that the ripple to separate the person from the conflict first began. And after this, there were others, many, sprouted up all over the country. As one community after another recognized that not separating the person who chooses to serve from how you feel about the conflict is an act against the sacrifice, the courage, the bravery, and the commitment that those people in uniform made to their fellow citizens here in the U.S. And time again, over the course of the past 37 years, we have gotten better and better, as the General said, in recognizing, honoring, and appreciating that commitment that people make when they join the service, put on that uniform, and walk into a combat theater. I must say that for me, part of the reason why I come every year here is because I am so grateful to the folks who stepped up 37 years ago at a time when it wasn't popular to do so, said these were people, these were our friends, these were our classmates, these were our teammates. They had moms and dads, and brothers and sisters, and stories that represented the life they lived. And they chose to put that all on the line for the rest of us. Whatever you think about the war, honor the sacrifice and the commitment that was made by these young men. And we are a country, I believe, that heard that message. And as I said, it rippled. And we are far better off as a society and as a nation being able to recognize, honor, and support those who wear the uniform, whatever we think or feel about the conflict. In the case of John McCain, I can't think of a better example of people's ability to separate the person from the conflict than John. The outpouring of love and support for him and for his family was an extraordinary statement about this country. And it leads me to believe that while there are all kinds of geopolitical and strategic lessons in the war in Vietnam, the one that means the most to me is the hard lesson we learned as a nation about what's right and wrong when it comes to the way we treat, honor, remember, and support our men and women in uniform. And it all started right here. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Tommy. I just want to say one real quick thing. That at a time when less than 1% of the American people are serving in the military, or even know somebody serving in the military, this black marble stone is a reminder of a time when serving was a civic duty and an honorable way to show that you're an American. And thank you, Tommy. Thank you, everybody around the fence, for making this happen 37 years ago. Thank you. Thank you, Tom. Our new state senator, Nick Collins, is here today with us. Nick has been with us before as our state representative. It's a pleasure now to introduce our new state senator, Nick Collins. Nick.
Thank you, Tommy, and thank you to the entire South Boston Vietnam Memorial Committee for your continued dedication in preserving this memorial and the memories of your fallen brothers. Governor Baker, Congressman Lynch, Mayor Walsh, State Councilors Flynn and Flaherty, and especially Secretary Francisco Arena and Commissioner Giselle Sterling, thank you for what you do for our veterans and their families. I'm honored to be among you today as a state senator of this district. Being here in the presence of distinguished veterans like General Lingle and Tom Kelly is an honor in unto itself. But what makes this day so special, and though we came here and come here annually to pay tribute to those who made the ultimate sacrifice for our country, a big gift for a lot of people that they didn't know. These sons of South Boston, it's a special day because as a son of Southie myself, I couldn't be prouder because not only did these men sacrifice everything for our freedom, but their fellow Southie brothers, led by Tommy Lyons, the men before us here today, in the face of shameful attacks on their character and integrity because of radical protests around the war in Vietnam, they stood tall. As they always do, they fought against the political grain to establish and honor their friends this First in the Nation memorial. Now, I wasn't around at the time, but I can imagine at the time that must have been difficult. And their acts to establish this memorial in the face of all that must have been about more than one thing. But the most important to me is loyalty. And that's why this day is so special. Because it showed the country that here in Southie, we value loyalty up against anything. Loyalty matters. So when I search for words every year before this event, I come back to the same ones. Thank you. Thank you to the Vietnam veterans for the loyalty you continue to show your fallen brothers. Thank you for the example you've shown generations like mine that loyalty matters. So thank you for having me today and allowing me to say a few words. God bless you all. God bless the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Thank you, Senator Collins. It's a pleasure to introduce our new elected city councilor, Ed Flynn. Ed is a Navy veteran of the Afghanistan War, and we're honored to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom, and to the committee for giving me the opportunity to speak before you today. It's my first time speaking, and I had the opportunity to talk to Tom before the event last week, and learned a lot, but I especially learned a lot from the guys on the fence here that love this country so much and sacrificing so much. I'm honored to be with you today. We gather here to remember our brave men from our neighborhood who paid the supreme sacrifice for our country. Our Gold Star families are also here today, and you will always be in our prayers. This was always a special and significant day for my family. I remember the enormous pride my Uncle Dennis had in being part of this special group of South Boston Vietnam veterans. My uncle, like all of you, didn't talk much about his service, but what he talked about is the guys he served with. Many of you right here, and many of the guys on the wall. He talked proudly of his military service. You helped build this memorial, which helped bring this neighborhood together, and more importantly, helped bring this country together. You never forgot your brothers in arms. Your quiet determination helped rebuild a country that needed it. You never looked for credit or recognition, but you were faithful in honoring the sacrifice of your friends. Again, I'm honored to be here. I want to say thank you to the governor and our elected officials and the mayor and Congressman Lynch for your strong support of veterans and military families. And again, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be with you today. Thank you, Tommy.
City Councilor Flaherty always reminds me that he was a young kid when this memorial was built. But it's always great to have Councilor Flaherty with us, and he enjoys bringing a personal perspective to his remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, Councilor Mike Flaherty.
I was here 37 years ago. I let the gray hair fool you, though, not 50 yet. So it's obviously an honor and a privilege to be here. Thank you, Tommy, for the great work, and for the men on the committee, for this memorial, for the people that come here every year. It's what makes Southie special. It's what makes us the greatest neighborhood in the city and in the country. I'm I'm so proud to be here, but also so honored to be able to come back every year. And while sitting here, not just from 37 years ago, but coming up here and looking at the names and knowing some of the families, not knowing some of the families, trying to sit there and say, well, I wonder if it's an uncle or a cousin. So I started last year with just trying to do a little research on, say, 4 or 5 of our brave soldiers here, just to put a little perspective and to try to make it as personal as possible. So I'm going to start with Donald Turner, Lieutenant Corporal, United States Marine Corps. During his youth, Donald was known to his family's friends as Donnie. He joined the Boy Scouts. He was very proud to be a Boy Scout. And according to his sister Dorothy, his mother used to say that everyone else was out of step except for her Don. During his high school, he was very active in local sports. Played football for both the O'Connell Club and the Moakley Senators. He enlisted in the United States Marine Corps shortly after completing high school. He married the love of his life, Donna, in 1967, before his tour of duty began. He was the father of a fine young man, Don Jr., who I don't believe he ever had a chance to meet. Lance Corporal Turner passed away on January 21st, 1969, at 21 years of age. May he continue to rest in peace. Douglas J. Eitry, affectionately known by his classmates at St. Augustine's and at Brighton High School as Dougie, was a twin. He was a twin to his sister Diana. He's remembered by family and friends as being a very promising young artist. Was able to sketch realistic figures in a very short period of time. He also enjoyed photography. He served in the United States Army as a combat photographer, a special skill that he enjoyed using. Less than a year into his service, Special Officer Eitry passed away on May 9, 1970, at 22 years of age. May he continue to rest in peace. Edward Milan, Sergeant Air Force of the P and Broadway Mines, nicknamed Bud. He was a graduate of South Boston High School. Before joining the United States Air Force as a meteorologist, Ed spent 4 years in the United States Navy. He wanted to be an air traffic controller, so he re-enlisted in the United States Air Force. He was active in local athletics, played South Boston Little League. He loved to skate. He was a member of South Boston Youth Hockey and taught a lot of kids from this neighborhood to skate. Was a big fan of the Boston Bruins and always said whether they won or lost that there was nothing wrong with the Bruins. Specifically, he received the Purple Heart and the Good Conduct Medal. Sergeant Milan passed away on March 4th, 1968, at 24 years of age. May he continue to rest in peace. Ron Del Verde, Corporal, U.S. Marine Corps. Ronnie Del Verde was educated in local schools. He attended the Gavin Middle School and then went on to South Boston High School. Also, like many kids from South, he was a member of the South Boston Boys and Girls Club, which was very special to Ron. He was an active member of the club and was very good at playing pool. He was remembered as being a warm and likable guy. Friends referred to him as the original Fonz. During high school, he very much enjoyed shop class and was very good fixing cars. Something that he thought he was going to do when he finished high school. Instead, upon completing his studies, he enlisted in the Marine Corps. 4 months into his service, Corporal Del Verde passed away on September 25th, 1968. May he continue to rest in peace. Frank Kubasek, Private First Class U.S. Army. Frank grew up on K and 5th. He's remembered by his friends as someone that was soft-spoken and quiet, but tough. He enlisted in the United States Army upon completing his high school studies. He was active in local sports. He was an excellent football player, playing for the Moakley Senators in the Boston Park League. He was in the 1st Cavalry Division, known by his squad leader as a warrior. Private First Class Kubasek passed away September 23rd, 1966. Only 5 days into his service. May he continue to rest in peace. And finally, I know the Joyces are here, they're here every year, the Old Harbor Project Joyces. Their brother John is on the wall and was remembered last year, but today is a special day for them because today would be John's 73rd birthday. So may John and the Joyce family continue to keep them in your thoughts and prayers as well. Thank you all, God bless.
Before we have the laying of the wreaths for the families and veterans, and a special wreath laying for Senator John McCain, Bob Morris asked if he could read a poem. So, Bob, if you would like to step up.
To paraphrase Governor Baker, I shall be brief. Thank you all, and thank you, Tommy, for allowing me to say a few words. After I left Vietnam in 1970, I went on a 30-year journey around the world, finally returning to my ancestral home here on the park across the street. I am now writing my memoir of those trips and my experiences, and only in the final chapter did I realize I had left out one journey. To walk from that red-doored house across the street over to here, to this very, very special place. And in thinking of this journey, I came across a poem by Archibald MacLeish, an artillery officer in World War I, and later a poet who taught and died in Boston. This eloquent poem, his words will sear your heart, and I ask you to listen closely to these words. The young dead soldiers do not speak. Nevertheless, they are heard in all the still houses. Who has not heard them? They have a silence that speaks for them at night, and when the clock counts. They say, we were young. We have died. Remember us. They say, we have done what we could. But until it is finished, it is not done. They say, we have given our lives, but until it is finished, no one can know what our lives gave. They say, our deaths are not ours. They are yours. They will mean what you make of them. They say whether our lives and our deaths were for peace and a new hope or for nothing, we cannot say. It is you who must say this. They say we leave you our deaths. Give them their meaning. Give them an end to the war and a true peace. Give them a victory that ends the war, and a peace afterwards. Give them their meaning. We were young, they say. We have died. Remember us. The young soldiers do not speak. Thank you.
I would like to ask Kathy Perry and Kathy Mylan O'Neill to please step forward and place a bouquet at the memorial on behalf of their brothers Eddie Mylan and Edward Stone. I'd like to ask John Nagel and Tom Steiner to step forward and place the bouquet on behalf of the South Boston Vietnam veterans. honor of and memory of Senator John McCain, United States Navy, prisoner of war in Vietnam. I'd like to ask General Joseph Lingle and Medal of Honor recipient Tom Kelly to please place a bouquet of flowers in honor and memory of Senator McCain. My honor now to read the South Boston Vietnam Honor Roll. Agree, Joseph, Lance Corporal, United States Marine Corps. Yazanati, Charles, First Lieutenant, United States Army. Borovic, Richard J., Specialist, 4th Class, United States Army. Calhoun, John C., Lance Corporal, United States Marine Corps. Cole, John Henry, PFC, United States Marine Corps. Daly, Paul M., Specialist 6th Class, United States Army. Delverde, Ronald L., PFC, United States Marine Corps. Desmond, Joseph F., PFC, United States Marine Corps. Dunn, Joseph W., PFC, United States Marine Corps. Edmund, Devon M., Sergeant, United States Army. Grover, Gene G., Staff Sergeant, United States Marine Corps. Ubisac, Frank C., PFC, United States Army. Aitree, Douglas J., Specialist 5th Class, United States Army. Jacobs, John P., Corporal, United States Marine Corps. Joyce, John G., Corporal, United States Army. Mylan, Edward W., Sergeant, United States Air Force. O'Toole, James, PFC, United States Army. Peterson, Burton, Lance Corporal, United States Marine Corps. Sheehan, Paul H., First Sergeant, United States Marine Corps. Stewart, James J., PFC, United States Marine Corps. Stone, Edward, PFC, United States Marine Corps. Sullivan, Edward M., PFC, United States Marine Corps. Thomas, Joseph E., PFC, United States Marine Corps. Turner, Donald J., Lance Corporal, United States Marine Corps. Wheeler, James K., Specialist 6th Class, United States Army. And in the service of their country, Lance Corporal Donald R. Powers, United States Marine Corps. Staff Sergeant Nicholas Buddy Sanchez, United States Air Force. I want to give special recognition to the Greater Boston Firefighters Pipes and Drums, and also joining us from Nova Scotia, Union Fire Club Pipes and Drums, Halifax, Nova Scotia. Thank you for being with us today. Also want to recognize on behalf of the Vietnam veterans, Ambassador Ray Flynn, Secretary Urena, Commissioner Sterling, State Representative-elect David Bale. I want to thank the color guards from the United States Army, U.S. Navy, U.S. Constitution, and the United States Marine Corps, the 25th Marines. I want to give a special shout out to the best ground crew this side of Fenway Park. These guys over the last couple of days have really done an amazing job getting the park with the help of the Parks Department. My fellow Vietnam veterans, Bob Lenahan, my two brothers, Jackie and Paul Lyons, thank you all for the great job that you've done. And finally, there'll be a reception at the Perkins Post following our ceremony today. And just to make folks aware of, this is the 100th anniversary of the ending of World War I, and the Perkins Post, who is named after Michael Perkins, Medal of Honor recipients, will be having an event that you'll be hearing more about in the next few weeks. If you forget my death, then I died in vain. These words do not speak about bravery or valor, duty or honor. In fact, they do not speak to the dead or about them. They speak to us, the living. For it is us who have been charged with the awesome responsibility of giving meaning, and yes, even life, to the ultimate sacrifice they made on our behalf. If we, the family, the friends, and the veterans they left behind, do not take the time or make the commitment to remember, then their deaths indeed will have been in vain. We must continue to remember. I know we will always remember. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here today. Retire the colors.